Hello, everybody. It's Heather. Welcome to my Friday reflection, but you're probably noticing it looks a little different than normal. Usually I'm in my studio and very focused on one topic, but today is a little bit different. Our reflection today is really going to be this focusing on National Book Month. And what we're going to do is we're going to, my amazing team member extraordinary, Ashley Rivera, my online community manager, she's going to be interviewing me, asking about my book process, how I got to where I was at, and just a lot about the book process for those who are curious about how to write a book, what it's like, the start, the finish, the in between. So that is what we were reflecting on today, how to actually bring a book to life. So Ashley, let's get started.
Okay, so for those that don't know, Heather's actually written 2 books. So I wanted to kind of pick her mind and see what her process was like, why she even wanted to start writing her books. I joined the team, was it last year?
Yeah, I know. I so. Yeah.
I don't even know. I joined the team right when she was releasing her second book. So it was very chaotic, very fun, lots of things going on. So I want to start off with my first question, which is, why did you decide to write a book?
I felt like a lot of people wouldn't get access to the content if they didn't read a book. Like they may see an article here or there, but books would be a larger distribution. And so I felt like the message, the first and the one related to the employee loyalty, and then the second one, which is still loyalty, but it's more about how we show up as leaders. It was just like another way to evangelize the message that people need to show up with more care. So I just felt like it was just another medium to get the word out.
Okay. And then something that I'm always curious about, but I want to ask like all the authors is, how long does it take to write a book?
Oh gosh, I think that depends. I remember when I was writing the first one, I went online and I went to this I can't remember what it's called, but it was some kind of like nonfiction book writing school. And it was a free type of thing they were doing. And I went on there and it gave me just enough kind of confidence to get started. And he was like, you could write a book in 3 weeks. And while it didn't take me 3 weeks to do the first or the second book, I do have to say that because if you can find out what the process is or like learn the process for writing, and basically what he was showing was like, if you can just kind of mind map it and get it all out on paper, then it helps you like organize your outline and things like that. And so it did help me get it done. I actually wrote the second book during the first few months of the pandemic. Believe it or not.
The pandemic. So you're talking about process, and I'm behind the scenes a lot. I do a lot of the marketing, so I know, but for the people that don't know, can you talk about a little bit about everything else that goes into a book other than the writing itself, which is a lot.
Yes. Poor Ashley came on literally right at the height. And it was actually this year, the height of the launch. And like in March, we were just getting ramped up on how we were going to do to market it. And it was kind of, I'm sure it was crazy, like drinking from a fire hose. But yeah, you have to have like email campaigns set up. You've got to have knowing what you're going to do on social media. So having kind of your marketing campaigns, you have to have all your graphics created for your social and your emails. You got to have people who are going to support you and write reviews. And you got to get those people lined up in advance. Gosh, you got to set up podcasts, which I know that was another thing that was making Ashley head spin, because she had to promote a podcast like every single second. I think she was thinking podcast and the articles and things like that. You just doing like a PR blitz for some months right up to and after the launch. So it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Sure. Yes. Something that you didn't mention is also the photo shoots, which I know that you had book photo shoots and then you have to do personal photo shoots. So I want to also throw that in there. Moving on to my next question, though. I know that you get your ideas just from like random things in your life, but can you go a little bit more deeper into that, where you get your ideas from?
Well, I mean, I am a big storyteller. I believe in the power of stories. So for me, I'm always like, I grab the story and then I think about that concept that's around it that might align with my core message. So one thing that people will know about me if they've followed me for any amount of time is that I am pretty key. I focus in on core messages. And so that I don't try to go off course too often. And it makes me a little nervous to do so. So my brand is what it is. And it's because I've been super consistent with trying to stay really, really centered on those messages that I put out there. And I have multiple messages, so it's not that hard to stay centered on 2 or 3 things versus just one solid thing. So I would say that that's the biggest thing, is knowing that I have to be consistent helps me stay the course and keeps it's like a North Star or bullseye for me. And then I would say, again, just like I'm capturing stories. And so the stories kind of help direct me. And I also believe that it's who I am as a person. I believe in iteration, and I believe things come to me for the reason and the time they come to me. And so I just take the lesson that's in that moment and use that to kind of spark more things. So like with the book, for example, the 7 intuitive laws of employee loyalty, on the first one, I was trying to figure out a way. Someone said, I think you should combine your legal background with obviously the employee loyalty thing that you're known for. And I kept thinking, how could I do that? How could I do that? And then it was like, oh, the laws of, and it really rang true, and people liked that a lot. And then again, just like putting stories in there of real life things, because I'm not making things up. These are real life stories from employees or my friends or whatever, right? And then the second book, The Art of Caring Leadership, I was trying to think, we were thinking of the power of caring leadership, and we let people on LinkedIn vote for different titles and different covers and things like that before we got to the point where we did, and the art and the power kind of won out. But I chose art because it was different than there are a lot of people who had been doing the power of something. And so art was better. And then it went really well with that whole idea of heart. So yeah, that was how that came
and
about.
It's a lot more like colorful, a lot more like vibrant. So I know one of the differences between your first and second book was that you had a lot more people involved in the process of the second book. So can you think of anything else that was super different your second time around than writing your first book?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that second book felt more like a collaboration, even though it was just me writing it. It was taking all the voices from all these people and figuring out how to synthesize it down into these nuggets and these behaviors that represent caring leadership. And so then just bringing in certain parts of the interviews I had with them. So that is the big part. Is the second book was found on my podcast, Leadership with Heart. And so then we were able to take those voices and say, okay, who do I want to incorporate in here? And then where do I want to incorporate them? Where do they best kind of provide evidence? This is kind of that lawyer in me. Where do they provide evidence of the behavior I'm saying that we need to show more of? So that was a big one. Oh, the second time around, I did not self-publish. I published through Berrett Koehler, and they have been an amazing publisher for me. The first time I did it on my own, and it was a lot harder and not nearly as successful. So yeah.
I didn't realize how different the two experiences had been, because I wasn't with you the first time around. But yeah, I can imagine how much smoother it is the second time around, because you have a publisher, they do a lot of the PR and stuff like that. So with that being said, I want to know, what was the best part about writing the book?
I think for me, I think about the very beginning. You're like, yeah. I think about the beginning of the pandemic, when all of us, we were really like, our hair was on fire. We were all just like, what are we going to do? And I was in the same spot like everyone else. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I had the best part was that I had that deadline, and I had this really important work I had been focusing on. And I was like, I needed to codify all the brilliance from these people and all of the journey. And so I think the best part of it was just being able to focus on that and know that I was bringing this amazing, important body of work to life for the world to learn from, and hopefully for employees to experience differences inside of the workplace. So yeah. Oh, writing
That's
a book is an
beautiful.
interesting. Well, writing a book is not like for the faint of heart, which is why not everybody does it, right?
Which brings me to my second question, which is, what was the hardest part about writing a book?
Sitting still. Anybody who knows me knows that sitting still is not an easy thing to do. So the sitting still thing, like sitting and not like taking meetings and not setting aside 2-3 hours each time and not taking calls, and all of those things were really the hardest thing. And, and I would say that the silver lining is that in that process of like sitting, is that again, now I have people from all over the world. I mean, all over the world reaching out, going, oh my gosh, like I want my team to do this. My team's going to be looking at this. And just the impact, like, oh, this is the kind of environment we need to have. We need to have this. I know we need to have this. So I'm seeing it really take hold in a way that I hadn't necessarily seen the first book take hold. It's really kind of like a positive domino effect that's happening right now. So it was all worth the sitting still time.
Yes. No, the feedback has been really, really amazing, but the book has such a good message, and definitely a message that was needed. So I'm glad that you wrote the book as well. And so that brings me to my last question, which is if you could give one piece of advice to any author out there or to somebody that wants to write a book, this is something that interests them, what would you say?
You have to get really super clear about what the end result is. So like, what is it you want to get to? What's the end message? And then also I would say, even backing yourself up, what impact do you want to have? Because if it's just like about making money, by the way, never write a book, because unless
Mm-hmm.
you're going to sell millions and millions, you're not really making money off the book sales. Not really. When you self-publish, you make more than when you go with the publisher. However, opportunities are abound, right? Things are everywhere because people are seeing your content. And so I would say no matter what, know what impact you want to have and be very clear about your message so that it's like basically can be on the top of a pinpoint, right? And people know this is exactly what this person stands for. And this is exactly the message that he or she are trying to get through. So that's what I would say.
Well, that is great advice. That is all of the questions that I had.
Awesome. Well, I just want everybody to know, anybody who's watching this right now, we obviously had this as a replacement for the Friday reflection, but, know that everybody can write a book. It's just a matter of, how focused are you? How much time do you want to sit down and do it in focus? But know that it does have an impact. And I'm pretty proud that I did it. I know that there is an impact happening. I feel good about that. But you can always reach out. We have some articles. We have an article, I think we do. Yeah, we have some articles out there about this, but we can also post maybe a tip sheet for those who are interested in learning some more or just like having like some quick references. Maybe we can provide that to you as well. But thanks for listening. Thanks for joining this very unique Friday reflection. See you later.